Are you ready, guys? Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Lunch and Learn. Sorry for the late time in which we bring this to you live, but we've been having a cracking conversation, a cracking discussion about all kinds of different things, righting all kinds of wrongs, and the world is pretty much saved now. How wonderful is that?
Put the world to right.
That's absolutely correct. So we've got limited time left to be able to do Pirkei Avot. So all I'm going to say is this week's parsha is Pinchas. There we go. Pardon me, Gary? What's that? It
starts with the end of the Cosby Show.
It starts with the end of the Cosby Show. If you don't know what we're talking about, you'll have to read it yourself this week. We're not going to go into Parshat Pinchas. We're going to dive into Pirkei Avot. So I'm going to share it with you on the screen. And here it comes. There we go. So we're on chapter 6, Mishnah 8 of Pirkei Avot. And there's only 8, 9, 10, 11. There's only 4 left. 4 Mishnayot left. And maybe only 3 more sessions before I break for the summer. So I really want that first week in August to be our end. Otherwise, we'll break over the summer and our first week back will be our big Siyum celebration. We'll see where everyone's at. If people are away, then that's going to probably answer the question for us. So either the first week in August or the first week in September is going to be our big party bonanza to celebrate completing Pirkei Avot. Let's see how we go. So, chapter 6, Mishnah 8, we're going to get ourselves underway. I'm just going to find my notes because I can't get them up on the screen. What's going on here? We still on? We still there? Yeah, good. So,
only the Hebrew is showing on mine.
Only the Hebrew is showing on yours. That's fine. I need to try and tweak what I'm doing here because everything's in the wrong place. That's what I'm looking for. Close that. Fine. And where have you guys gone now?
I'm here.
Yeah, there you are. I'm trying to get you on my screen. I need my notes there, and I need that there. Okay. Chapter 6, Mishnah 8, where we're going to be looking at another list of things to be focusing on. So here we go. There it is for you in the English. That's what we're looking for.
Too small to read.
Too small to read, is it? Try pinning me.
Oh, that's okay.
Try spotlighting me,
Can
Joe.
you see it? I can't see it.
Try pinning my camera to your thing so that I'm bigger.
Never mind. Just tell me what it is. I've got a book.
Okay,
so it's come back. It's fine now.
That's what I'm saying. I just made myself spotlighted. Okay, we're at the bottom of page 569 in the Green Siddur. So what we've got here is a statement by Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda was a student of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, so we're talking Roman times. He's a contemporary of Rabbi Judah the Prince. Right? Is that right? Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai?
Mm-hmm.
Was he Roman times? He was Roman times, wasn't he? So Rabbi Shimon, this is interesting actually because what we've got here is a different person. The English says Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh. I cannot explain that because if you have a look at the Hebrew, it says Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda. So someone's made a mistake. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda said in the name of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, ben Yochai. Bar and ben means the same thing. So it says as follows, that there are different things. There's beauty, there's strength, there's riches, there's honor, there's wisdom, there's old age, there's gray hair, and there's children. And it says that they are becoming to the righteous. Let's have a look at the in the Hebrew, okay? So you've got all these things, noi, kach, etc. No'eh latzadikim v'no'eh la'olam. So the translation on the screen there is they are becoming to the righteous and they're becoming to the world. Says Rabbi Sachs, they are fitting for the righteous, they are fitting for the world. So we've got all these different things. Beauty, strength, wealth and honor, wisdom, old age, gray hair and children. They are fitting for the righteous and they are fitting for the world. And then it goes into a whole bunch of quotes of verses to support to support this fact. So you can go through some of these. We're not going to go through these necessarily in significant depth, but these are all locations in the Bible which are testament to these qualities being so impressive, not only for the righteous, but also for the world. So it says, grey hair is a crown of glory, a crown of beauty. It is attained by way of righteousness. And it says the ornament of the wise is their wealth. And it says the glory of youths is their strength. And the beauty of old men is their grey hair. And grandchildren, and the glory of their elders, and the glory of children is their parents. And it says, then the moon shall be ashamed, and the sun shall be abashed, for the Lord of hosts will reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and God's honor will be revealed to his elders, because it's so wonderful to have honor. And then it finishes off, Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh Omer, that's the other guy, Elu sheva midot shemanu chachamim l'tzadikim kulam nitkaimu b'Rabbi uvevanav. He says these 7 qualities which the rabbis have said are fitting for the righteous. If you take a look at Rabbi Yehuda, the prince, and his sons, you will see that they had all of these wonderful attributes, wonderful traits. So it's not the easiest English to follow. I think Paul's going to agree with me there. Unless he's going to turn around to me and say, actually, Rabbi, this is the easiest mission I think we've ever done. Because I feel like that always happens to us, doesn't it? The ones that I find really tricky and the ones that Paul finds really easy. Anyway, so I think fundamentally what we're saying is as follows, that there are these 7, maybe 8 attributes, which are all desirable qualities, all things to want to have as part of their life. But the truth is that they will enhance and elevate a person if they are channeled in the right way, but they all come with pitfalls if they are not used in the right way. So these things are things that we want to have, but we want to have them for the right reasons, and we want them to be present in the right people, because they do make people better. They do make the world a better place. And so these are not things that we will be looking to avoid. We might typically think, oh, why is being wealthy so important in Judaism? But it can be, because that means that lots of wealth can be distributed to people in need. That's just one example. So all of these things, they have value, but they also have pitfalls. They also have the potential to be traps and to be a curse for society and a curse for people as well. There's a commentary called the Ruach Chaim, which says that all of these traits, all of these attributes are like zeros. Put them all together and they're all just going to say 0. But if you put a 1 in front of that number, then all of a sudden it's laden with value. So it's only going to be meaningful if you are the one that goes before these zeros. And when I say that you are the one, I mean that you, with all of the abilities and the willingness to use these things for the good, then it's going to be worth 1 million or 1 billion, whatever 7 zeros is, 10 million. So if you've just got these things and they're not used well, then they're just going to be zeros. But you put the right person, you put the right 1 in front of those zeros, and then you got 10 billion. It's amazing. So a couple of questions, I guess, first. Do you guys think there's anything missing from the list? Because the mission is telling us what the attributes are. It could be that you guys think, oh, it's missed out, whatever. Ferraris. Honesty. Nice.
Yeah.
Honesty. Well, it's not in there, is it?
Well, maybe honor and wisdom would come about honor.
Maybe wisdom brings about honesty.
Mm.
Maybe it can be incorporated under wisdom.
I'm sure.
Which, easy to say, but it still didn't make the cut, did it? So we're always going to be left. I'm not going to be able to answer you why honesty is not in there, but
No.
it's an interesting exercise for us to think about what things we might have included. Are there any there that
I
we
just
would
think
think?
these things are very strange to have in. If the whole of Judaism and the way to be a good Jew is to want to have beauty and strength and riches and honor and wisdom, these are not things one should aspire to, surely. These are things which one may have, but not as a result of. One should aspire to be able to study Torah. One should aspire to. I can see a lot of things I would aspire to if I was doing a list like this, but I'm not sure riches are not something. They are more misused than used in a good way.
But it's not as it appears, not just as it says, because beauty may be internal beauty, spiritual beauty. It doesn't have to be external beauty.
I'm not sure that beauty has a
Same
direct.
with strength. Same with strength. Inner strength may not be physical.
Let's agree to disagree.
Aren't these on the Kabbalistic tree? Some of these: beauty, strength, wisdom.
They are. Well, they're not on the. They're not on the Sfirot.
And I'll use the other half tonight.
They're not on the Midot. Chachma is. Chachma is. But yeah, so there's not tremendous amounts that I can say because I've also got questions that I don't have answers to.
Yes, it's the fact that I obviously don't understand it. Not that the rabbi is wrong. I'm not suggesting he's wrong. I'm just saying I obviously therefore don't have the skill to understand what he's saying. But from my lack of knowledge, it seems a strange list to want to put together. This is what we should aspire to.
Right.
Is it?
I think it's a good point. It's a good point.
Right. But children are becoming to the right. Does that mean and to the world because they will carry on the tradition?
Yeah. Okay. Great. I don't have a problem with that. Literally, but here we have a list by a rabbi in the name of another rabbi of the things that we as Jews should aspire to become more Jewish. And I think we've seen better lists previously in Pirkei Avot.
I think it might also be not just that we want to aspire to them. We should want to aspire to them as ways of being the best people that we can be. We shouldn't aspire to them with the intention of misusing them. There's plenty of people that want wealth to be able to squander on their own, binges. But I
we
guess
have seen better lists. I mean, we've gone through a lot of lists in the last 3 years, and I've got to be honest, this ain't top of my.
This wouldn't have made the cut for you. Wouldn't have made the cut. What is interesting though is perhaps focusing on the last part of it is kind of helps us tie it all in, because you got this Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh who says if you want to see someone who's taken all of these different traits and all these different attributes and all these different aspirations and figured out how to be the best person that he can possibly be out of them, I encourage you to look at Rabbi Yehuda Hassi. I encourage you to look at Rabbi Judah the Prince, because he says Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh are the prime example of using these things in the right way, investing in the right people, investing in the right causes, only utilizing what he had for beneficial purposes. There's stories about him that he was fabulously wealthy, but that didn't stop him from becoming a Torah giant, and not just a Torah giant, but the compiler of the Mishnah, the guy that put all of these Mishnayot into the codified books that we have now. So all of these things can be used for advantage rather than disadvantage, but they're also they can also be traps. As we well know, beauty can be a trap. It can lead you in all the wrong directions.
The glory of youth is their strength. Is it?
Yeah.
The glory
it's
of
only
youth
when
is
you're young and strong you can achieve things when you're
Tiferet
older.
Bachurim Kocham, V'Hadar Zakenim Seva. I'd have to look up all of these different verses, but
Yeah. And the beauty of old men is their grey hair. Whilst I obviously agree, it's a bit of a dodgy thing to put.
I would venture to say that when we talk about grey hair, we're talking more about life experience.
Oh.
Don't get me wrong. Your grey hair is wonderful, but the grey hair indicates to us that you've had a life of experience from which other people could benefit,
and which even then I would hesitate to disagree with the rabbi. But the fact that an elderly person, an old man, has grey hair says nothing about his beliefs, nothing about his goodness, nothing about his honour or his wisdom, surely.
No.
The fact he has grey hair means he's got grey hair. He can't help it. He'd rather stay black than he didn't. So, okay.
Yeah, he could be awful, couldn't he?
Yes, it doesn't. He could. It doesn't automatically say that he has grey hair, which shows how much honour, wisdom, and riches. In fact,
but I think all of these things.
With this, haven't I?
I think that all of these things are saying that we don't automatically learn anything. So a guy's got 20 million quid in his bank account. That doesn't tell me anything about him. At the end of the day, our actions will. Well, no, there's plenty of intelligent people out there, but they're but they make all kinds of wrong conclusions. So
I think reading this in the context of we're reading it, I would be happy to say that the wisdom is of Torah law learning. That's what they're trying to say, I'm sure.
Maybe, but maybe even wise people who are, very well versed in Torah can make really bad mistakes with. Think about what you started with. This rabbi in Morocco, what was it in Morocco, who said that we have to cut people off. He'll have been a very wise man, but he'll have made a decision and a public statement which will have divided the community.
But he obviously thought he was right.
None of these things are guarantees. I guess it's the things that we do with them that will testify as to whether they have been na'eh to the world, whether they would have been, whether they would have brought beauty, and whether they would have brought my arms waving around frantically in the air.
A light to the
people. World.
That's right. So we're saying that these
rabbis, one of the sages, they weren't all rich. There were some were poor and some were rich, so that's why I think these are an inner meaning, because they couldn't. Their riches were spiritual riches. I think it's all spiritual, because I can't see how just the money. Because some of these rabbis were were poor, and they were great sages.
Absolutely. This isn't a checklist of things that you need to have in your life to be successful. But these are all things which, when put in the right hands, will be wonderful assets and wonderful tools, and they will only bring wonderful things to the world on account of it.
So these are not a list of aspirations that a Jew should have. You shouldn't be reading it in that sense. You should be reading it in the sense you just described.
I think when I think about this more and more, these are all gifts that we can be given, and we should understand exactly that these will be things that we are gifted, and we have to then make sure that we channel them and use them appropriately. There's plenty of rich people who are, horrendously terrible, but put in the right hands, you could bequeath your 120 billion estate to be given to charity before you die. That's a wonderful thing to do.
This proverb, the ornament of the wise is their wealth. What does that mean? The ornament of the wise is their wealth.
So in Hebrew, it says Ateret Chachamim Ashram. The crown of the wise is their wealth. I don't know because I haven't looked into all these verses, but
But, but why should them being wise make them wealthy?
I think, Rabbi, this is possibly one of the most complex ones that we've looked at, to be honest.
yeah, but that's fine because we're finishing with it in a few weeks' time, so we can.
I think this is. Should we come back to this maybe next week? If you're.
I
So
don't
you got
see
an
why.
opportunity to look up some of these things.
I could do.
And you thought it was going to be easy today. You thought,
Yeah.
I've had a long day. I didn't sleep with the baby last night. Shouldn't be. Let's get them sorted.
I think what I was unearthing with these verses is that these verses link these concepts to righteous people. And so it's basically scriptural evidence that these things will be good when in the right hands. So let's have a look. Ateret Tiferet Seva, is that the first one? Ripe old age is a crown of splendor. It can be found in the path of righteousness. That was one of them, isn't it? Is that the first one? Yeah, well, they say grey hair is a crown of glory. It is attained by way of righteousness. So I've got an explanation here. This verse shows that old age will not cause true Torah personalities to lose their drive for spiritual matters. So that's what this verse is coming to show, is that old age in the right hands will only continue to bring glory and bring good things to the world, because they will continue. Righteous people will continue with the same momentum for spirituality and for goodness, irrelevant of how long they live for. In the hands of others, to have more time in the world will just give people more time to make the same mistakes. The lifespans of people in the beginning of our Torah, the hundreds of years that people had to be able to live out their lifespans, it just led to a downward spiral in wickedness. Sometimes knowing that you've only got a limited amount of time in this world will be a motivator to do more good.
Why and when did that stop? The age issue.
The age issue, it stopped after.
Was there a particular reason it stopped?
It stopped after the flood. With Noah.
Okay.
The world transitioned into a state of maturity.
Right.
We took a bit of a look at it with the bigger picture.
Yes, I recall.
Yeah. So what that does is it gives us a more manageable lifespan, and I think that's why you see a lot people getting into their older, more mature years, and they become much more generous than they might have been in their earlier years. I think it's all part of this. You've had life experience, you've realized the blessings that you've got, and people become more willing to share. People become more reflective of their mortality, and that can influence the good that they do, which they might not have done in earlier years. We've got the verse, Ateret Zakenim B'nei Vanim. The crown of the aged is grandchildren, V'tiferet Banim Avotam, and the splendor of children is their parents. Children, if not educated properly, can serve as a great and shameful indictment of parents. The verse promises that children and grandchildren will only be a source of pride to those who are truly dedicated to Torah, to those who really imbue the right values into their children. So that's the essence of that verse. Children are ultimately a huge responsibility, and it can go any way, and they can bring us nachas, or they could absolutely disgrace us. So in the right hands, please God, children will be raised up to
Children can
to
never
Hurina.
disgrace us. I think that statement as a sentence doesn't work. If children do something which is not
Think in the extremes,
the way that
Paul.
we would have done
Try
it,
and think in the extremes when I say
it doesn't
that.
reflect on us as parents necessarily. We may have done our very, very best under what we've done. We've done our best. We couldn't have done. Looking back, well, we couldn't have done any better. Now, does it come back on us as disgraceful parents when our children, and I don't mean my children or my situation, just in the general sense of it, do something which is not, and therefore it comes as a disgrace of the parent who has done everything they can.
I'm thinking very much in the extreme. I'm not thinking about nuance over here. I'm thinking in an extreme sense. It must be possible that there will be some horrendous people out there. I can't imagine that Mr. and Mrs. Hitler were shepping nachas.
Perhaps they were for the power.
Well, hopefully, yeah. Hopefully they won't. But
Who knows?
so
I take your point, but it's an interesting view.
I'm not talking
I
about.
to disagree with them.
I'm not talking about the areas in between, but certainly, yeah. But
Did you look back on that verse with the ornament of the wise is their wealth?
The ornament
Because that's
of
quite
the wise is their
hard
wealth.
one.
Where was that? That was
Proverbs 16 to 31. In the middle.
1624. Why doesn't it have a piece on that?
1624.
Well, it hasn't given us one on that. It hasn't given us one. So what is it? It's
complicated sentence. The ornament of the wise is their wealth.
1 second. Teret Tiferet Sefer, you did that one. Tiferet Bachurim Kocham, V'Hadar Zakenim, and then V'Omer Ateret Chachamim Ashram. That's extremely strange. That's not in my edition. That's only on the screen there. That's not to say the verse doesn't exist. It's just to say that it hasn't made it.
Even in my book of explanations, it says the inclusion of wealth in this saying may seem strange.
Well, to do this, we're going to have to look at.
Well, that's why it's been a very fascinating and lovely hour. Thank you.
1 second. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the verse. Are you seeing this as I'm moving on the screen, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The ornament of the wise is their wealth. The stupidity of dullards is stupidity. Let's have a look at some of this going on over here. The crown of the wise is their wealth. They are rich in Torah.
Wow.
So they describe their definition of wealth is Torah knowledge.
Yeah.
Which then makes sense.
All of them, that's what they're. None of them can be taken at face value, I don't think.
The crown that the Chachamim wear is a sign of their wealth, because the acquisition of wisdom is a true acquisition, and they are truly ashirim. They are truly wealthy.
Yep, got it.
So it's it's not a reference.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. That's much clearer.
Yeah, but what's odd is that the verse didn't make it into the books that I've got here. So the ornament of the wise is their wealth. The glory of youths is their strength. The glory of The beauty of old men.
I don't understand that one either, but that's for another day.
The young should be proud of their strength, while the elderly should be proud of the wisdom that comes with years.
It's only when you're young and strong that you can make inroads and do things.
Yeah.
When you're older, you can't.
I can certainly.
You have a different wisdom then.
But you also
physical.
you also have a different sort of strength, a strength of belief,
Yes.
a strength of belonging, a strength.
Yes.
I mean, there are. I suppose it's the definition of strength that are.
Yeah, inner strength. It's different.
Yes. Yes.
Well, koach almost is, you know, when we're talking about physical strength, we'll use words like chazak, we'll use words like gibor, we'll you know, this is koach, which is more a vitality, which is more prevalent in younger people than older people. We have, you know, when we get older and we crash, oh, I don't have the koach for this.
But the glory of youth is their strength. That's again not something that I would say is something that you would want the youth to aspire to, their strength. That is the glory, your strength. If they were to aspire to Jewish values, I think that was actually more. If they were to aspire to Jewish learning, to Torah learning, I mean, there's a million different things I put in there before I got to strength.
Yeah.
That's because I obviously don't understand what strength is.
So I would say it's most likely alluding to the fact that the things that you're going to do in your life, do it with your koach. Put your kishkas into it. Utilize the energy that you have as a young person and go far. So for a tzaddik raising their children, they're going to want them to push full hog forward with the Jewish wisdom, with the Jewish values, and while you've got that koach, utilize it, push for it, strive for it, put into the wrong hands, and we're pushing people in all kinds of different directions where we're getting them to use their strength and their abilities, but for frivolities. You know, I guess think of the difference between somebody who sends their child off to a gap year to study in a yeshiva in Israel with someone who sends their child off for a university experience and all that entails. And I guess compare and contrast. But there we are. All right, we'll pin it there for today.
There's a lot more in that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for allowing so much interjection.
It's an honor and a privilege to receive the interjections. Makes it all more
shows we're
fun.
interested. We're thinking about
Absolutely. Which to everyone, to the millions watching on YouTube, to the none that ended up watching this on Facebook, we wish you a wonderful and meaningful day, and we'll see you all very soon.